Hi, in this video I want to show you 4 main ways to navigate data in LinkedDataHub. So what we're looking at here is the root container of Northwind Traders, which is one of our demo applications. And just to remind you real quick that every data space in LinkedDataHub contains a document hierarchy. And it's a hierarchy in the sense that some documents can have children documents, and those children documents can have their own children, and so on down the levels. And there is really no limit on how many levels there can be. But it's important to know that there are 2 types of documents: containers, those who can have children resources, and items. And items can only have content and not children resources. So this is very similar to folders and files in the file system conceptually. And the document hierarchy starts with the root container, which is what we're looking at right now. And that brings me to the first way of navigating data, which is called document tree. And you can access it by sliding your mouse to the left edge of the screen. And this will only work in a desktop kind of a layout. On the mobile responsive layout, the document tree will always be visible but work the same way. So here we can see the list of containers, the root container as well as some system containers. And what you can do is click the arrow here to expand the container to see the children containers that children documents that it has, right? So in this case, the first level is also containers, and we can expand them as well. And now we see that the second level, those are not containers, those are items, because they don't have the children documents anymore, right? So just by expanding the containers, we went through 3 levels in the hierarchy. And you can click on any item here to open the document, and the current document will always be selected in the document tree, right? So this is a quick way to navigate through documents in the hierarchy and open them. So that brings me to the second way of navigation, which is kind of complementary to the document tree. It's called Breadcrumbs. And if you look at the top here, at the action bar here, you see those are 3 levels of breadcrumbs, starting from root container. The first level is categories, and then the second level is beverages. So this is a different way of looking at the position of the current document in the document hierarchy. So one way is to look at the document tree, and the second way is to look at the breadcrumbs. So that's why I say they kind of work together. And again, using the file system analogy, the breadcrumbs would be similar to a file path to a certain file in the file system. Okay, so now we can look at the third way to navigate data. And for that we need a container, because it only applies to container content. And if you look on the right hand side here, you see a menu called related results. That's how this kind of navigation is presented in the UI, but it's also known as parallax navigation. And it's not a new concept, but it's not very popular for some reason. But it applies very nicely to graph data. And what it can do is allow the user to jump not only from one document to another document, but from a set of resources to a new set of resources, just by selecting the property to jump over. So what you can see here is a list of RDF properties in this current container result set that we're looking at. So we're looking at employees, and one of the properties they have is area served, in other words, locations that they work with. So let's try that. And we get a list of locations. And we don't need to stop here. We can continue jumping as long as there are properties in the result set. So we can see the regions that those locations are contained in, right? And just with 2 clicks of a mouse, we jumped from a set to a different set. And let's go back to the initial state of employees. What's more, that this parallax navigation works really nicely in combination with faceted search, which you can find here on the left side for containers. So let's filter the locations of some of the employees. Let's say we only want to see employees that work in Atlanta and in Boston. So we have 2 employees working with these locations. And now we can go back to related results and try the same thing. Let's see the locations that they work with. Okay, and we get a list of all the locations that these employees work with, which includes Atlanta and Boston. And then we can continue, just like we did before, to see the regions that those locations are contained in. Okay, so now we only get 2 instead of 4 like we had before the faceted search. We have Eastern and Southern, and that makes sense because Atlanta is in the Southern region and Boston is in the Eastern. So that's a very powerful way to traverse and explore and navigate RDF data in LinkedDataHub. Okay, so now we have the last kind of navigation, and for this I need an item document because it only works with items. Let's try Fuller. And we're now in an item document, and in this view you can see that for every resource on the right side there is a heading called Backlinks, and we can click it, and what it does, it retrieves a list of resources that link to the current resource in the middle here. So in this case, we get a list of all the resources that link to Fuller in our Northwind Traders database. So why could that be? Let's try Callahan and see how it links to Fuller. Okay, we can see that Fuller is the sponsor of Callahan, or this is the term that we use for manager. So Fuller is the manager of Callahan. Okay, so that's why Callahan is a backlink for Fuller in this list here. Or we can try this ID here, which is an order ID as far as I remember. Okay, and now we're looking at an order and how is it connected to Fuller, and we can see that Fuller is the broker for this order, right? Okay, so now we can go back to Fuller again, and yeah, for any resource you can do a lookup of backlinks just to see what other resources are linking to this one, and that's very useful sometimes. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I hope this helps you navigate data in LinkedDataHub.